Hello everyone, welcome to our webinar. My name is Michał, I'm a UX consultant with 16 years of experience, and with me is Maciej.
Hi, this is Maciej. I'm the UX services leader in Lingaro with around, 15, 16 years in IT.
Yep.
Actually, I've been a designer for all my life.
Yeah, and in this webinar you will find out how to create insightful Power BI dashboards that will be nice to read for your users and will help your company save money and earn more, take the right decisions.
It's all about the money.
Sometimes.
Right.
So, what we will talk about. First of all, a few words about who we are, about the Lingaro's UX team. Then we will mention a few key principles in designing for data. And also we will back this up by a little, again, talk about why it is important. Not only about money, but also about your users' cognitive burden connected with reading the reports. Then we will get to the redesign part. So basic rules of redesigning your Power BI reports. So branding, choosing the correct type of charts, using correct nice backgrounds and icons. Also a few words about content hierarchy, so filters, charts names, KPI tiles. We will present you a few tips and tricks on how to do it. Then we will finish the webinar with a few words about how to be consistent in your reports, how to emphasize key data, and finally, landing page.
Basically, we want to show you the whole overview of the areas we need to consider while designing dashboards on an everyday basis.
Okay, so about Lingaro. We are a team of experts which covers the whole process of redesigning and designing the data software. First of all, the business analysts talk to the business, they get the requirements. Then there is us UX people who care about designing, organizing the dashboard and talking to the users. We have UI or visual designers to better design the colors and backgrounds and fonts, let's say, and the developers make these things actually happen. What I said is a bit of like a waterfall, but it's not the case usually. We usually have representatives of each subdivision involved at every stage. We work together.
Yeah, and essentially, having this cross-competency setup enables us to deliver a complex project end to end.
Yep. So while I read this slide, maybe I will just sum it up in a few words. We are a company that combines a startup approach with flexibility and innovative spirit, let's say, with a scale of a big corporation. So it's a nice match.
Yeah, it's a 900 people startup actually.
Yeah.
But yes, this is true. We have a mindset of a startup. We have a can-do attitude. So we are doing a lot of interesting stuff.
Apart from taking care of Power BI reports, we also are involved in creating solutions for different software engines, let's say, so Tableau, Click, Domo. Apart from reports, we also take care of enterprise software, mobile apps, also SharePoint sites, and we provide also UX consulting and training for companies.
Essentially, you need to know that all these principles and the data we will show today, it's applicable for all BI technologies actually, because these are the standard good practices of designing for data, not only for Power BI.
So now the key principles in designing for data. So first of all, you need to decide, because usually your audience is not homogeneous, let's say. There are several groups of people who are interested in the reports on several, let's say, levels. Different people are interested in different stuff, basically. So your top level managers will be interested in KPIs, generally that are probably yes or no KPIs.
Yeah, they have like only, 1, 2, 3 minutes or even less to decide whether the situation is good or not, and take the action.
Um, I always use this metaphor that by reading those reports, you need to decide where to send your rewards, let's say, or
Yeah,
bonuses to the people who did the right job, and where do you have to send your audit people who will need to find out what went wrong and what to improve.
exactly.
But sometimes your users basically need to, for example, compare the data. Sometimes they need to take decision based on the data.
That's why you need to talk to the users in the first place to get to know them and to know their challenges and the ways they will work with the data.
Yeah, and it's not always obvious. So taking your users into the room before you start developing your reports is very important. And in the next slides, we will show you a little bit how to do it. Make it easy to find what users need first, for example. Okay, so first tip. Basically, take your users into one room and show a PowerPoint to them. You can put a template on this, like with this grid, and I will show you in PowerPoint here. You have this insert menu in your ribbon, and simply you put chart. Then you decide what kind of chart, and let's make it fancy. 3D pie chart. What do you think, Maciek?
Wow, it looks good. I didn't know actually that PowerPoint has this functionality until you showed me.
Uh-huh.
I think I will start liking PowerPoint actually.
Yeah.
But essentially, the case is that it's very, very tempting to jump right into developing the dashboard. And instead of doing this, just sit down and talk to the users, show them a PowerPoint slide, ask them what they need, just fiddle around with these charts and place them on a layout, then show it to the user, and he will tell you that this is exactly what he or she needs. And this is exactly what you need to start developing the dashboard. Because if you don't have this, it's a risk that you will waste a lot of time developing a dashboard in Power BI, for example. Then you go to the business and they say that no, this is nothing that they were expecting to see, and you need to change all of this.
As a rule of thumb, it's like this, that people think more, better understand something that they see, visuals. So when the requirements are written on a piece of paper or in a Word document, it's easier to misunderstand something. When it's drawn, when the pictures are there, it's always a step in the right direction. And you don't have to be that sophisticated, actually. If you don't want to play in this menu in PowerPoint, you can simply take a piece of paper and draw some squares with titles. It's as simple as that, and it will help your users know what they want and sign off, let's say, the first step, and take your project in the right direction.
Yeah, when they are part of the design process, they will sign it off, and they will start becoming an advocate of the solution. So they won't change anything along the way, because this is essentially their design.
So here's an example of a simple dashboard, one view, that contains a pie chart, a bar chart, and a few KPIs, with also a space designed for filters, which will be probably determined at a later stage, but here we have some for the beginning. Basically, you need to also remember that there needs to be some consistent structure across your report. And what we recommend is put your title and filters on top or to the side, especially when they influence the area that is the entire area that is displayed. If a filter changes only one visualization, you obviously put it close to it. Then you can get to the more detailed level of your report. Not always on one single screen, of course. This can be like one click away from the initial KPI. And probably this part would be more interesting to your top level users, and the ones below it, lower level users, let's say.
Yeah, think of it about like about a storytelling. So You start off with a very high level view of the situation. This is important for your C-level section, for example. Then you go deep dive into the detailed view for your business analysts, for example, or data analysts, right? They are interested in the very, very sophisticated data deep down below.
So, to sum it up, what is the main purpose of a business intelligence? It's to provide the key visuals and key measures as soon as possible. So you need to make your key information immediately visible. And for example, you can do it by displaying all the titles and labels, not like after you mouse over something, but right away. And for example, use lists instead of drop downs, especially when there is not too many items you put as alternatives.
Yeah, I can imagine that you've been in a situation when you have sent a report to someone and this someone came back to you telling that you need to tell me this, where should I find this data, or just tell me what is the data. Instead of, the user using the report, he just or she just comes back to the developer and asks for the data, right? Because they don't see it immediately.
Yep. Another principle, for example of a pattern is that you need to consistently display the numbers. Here to the right, the numbers are a bit fancy, but not very readable. If you adjust them correctly, use the same number of decimal points, it becomes more clear right away.
This is just, but it's quite interesting because this is like a pattern our brain is used to, right? Because our brains are working in a pattern-like manner. So if they see something they are used to, they will understand it immediately. When the same thing is broken, so this is not the pattern they are used to, they can't understand it. They need to analyze it further, right?
Yeah, and for example, here you don't even have to read the number to know it's larger than other numbers.
Exactly,
because
yes.
it's longer. Here, no,
You
not
can't
really.
see. Yeah, no, I can't see it.
And some examples of layout: filters to the left, KPIs to the top, visually distinguished. We will talk about this later. Or filters on top, key information to the left, high level type tables. You basically need your users to achieve this, and it's a step even before you open Power BI or your developers open Power BI.
Open the PowerPoint or use a pen and paper. Just, draw some squares, draw some circles, and, make some labels, and then give them this layout to sign off and just go to develop.
And now a few words why good data visualization matters. We will back up what we just said with some actual numbers and actual research that we did.
Yeah, actually, UX is about research. You ain't doing UX when you don't do research. So we thought about adjusting the layouts of the reports we had. So we chose some reports where the customer didn't invest money into the design. So we thought that we can take these designs, we can redesign the report according to our best practices, to our expertise, and we wanted to see what would be the impact of the bad design versus the good design. So we decided to do the research. So we arranged a eye tracking research. We gathered 15 respondents. We developed 4 simple tasks, and we prepared like 2 versions of the same report: the original one and the optimized one. And the results of this research were quite surprising, actually. The first one you see now, it's the original report. So it was a very, very simple task. The task was about to find out how many agencies are taken into account on the report. Very simple task. Apparently, not so simple when you see how the user was looking for the data. So the patterns are chaotic. He wanted, or yeah, this was a he. He wanted to find out how many agencies were on the pie chart, or they're looking at the question again and again and again. So this is very, very chaotic. So it took a long time to analyze. On the optimized version,
basically, maybe if I can say a
oh
few
sure,
words about
yeah,
this. Basically, the eyes, our eyes, they do not go continuously about what they see. They perform little movements. We call them saccades. Uh, and here's a map of those fixation places where our eyes or our users' eyes stopped for a moment, and then when they went on. And we use this to measure areas of interest on each dashboard.
you can see that there were like 160 or 170 paths
Yeah.
where the user was searching for the
Mhm.
data. So you can see the optimized version, and it's very, very calm and structured. So the user found out very, very quickly how to count these agencies,
Yeah,
right?
we can compare. Like here, people look all around the screen, and on the other optimized version, the eyes just go to the right spot where they can count these agencies.
Because essentially our job is to guide people's sight along the layout. We know how to put things on the layout to make the connections between one part of the screen and another part of the screen. We know how the site will be working and how the people will be searching for the data. So as you can see, this was quite simple, and it took like, I don't know, 5 or 6 times faster to analyze. And actually, on the first slide, the user didn't answer the question. And on the second one, he did. Right. So we measured what were the differences of the analysis time, what were the fixations, what was the, because essentially when you fix your site and then you click, because the task was to click on on the answer actually. So the time between your fixation to the first click is the time of the analysis. And we found out, the research found out that the optimized version was 5 times better performing. So the people did the analysis 5 times faster than on the not optimized version. So this is significantly faster, right?
Yeah.
So, but well, what is the real benefit? It comes down to the money. So imagine that you have a task which takes about 1.5 minutes to analyze. You have 10 tasks per report, and you have 30 reports to analyze per month. Then you have 250 users in your organization which need to work with these reports on a monthly basis or day-to-day basis. If you count all of this, you will see that if you have this not optimized version, the red one, you need to spend like $210,000 a month for your users to analyze the data. If you just invest some money, a fraction of this money, to design this report in the first place, you will pay for the analysis on a monthly basis just $41,000. This is like $160 or $150, $50,000 less when you just have this bad design of your report. This is the real cost.
Talking simply in time.
Yeah.
Yeah, here it confirms, here's a heat map. So the fixation map shows like where users looked in sequence. Here it's all the looks in one area are added up, and this area is warmer if more people looked into it.
And the funny thing is that everyone likes to see the pie chart on the design, right? Because it's colorful, it's nice, it's fancy. Actually, it's fancy. And the problem is that because you have a lot of colors there,
Yeah.
the site is focusing momentarily in this place, but the user can't really read the data from it, right?
People were trying to count, at least that's what I make out of this. We're trying to count the slices in the pie chart, which are very small and rather hard to count. In the optimized version, people were simply counting the rows, which gave them quick answer to the question. Okay. Here, another example of interesting finding we took from the research, that you need to take care about contrast and size of your labels, as well as area around the label. Here we have KPIs, and the left design seems very subtle. It looks kind of neat.
Yeah, the colors. I like the colors
Yeah.
actually.
But users had trouble finding this one KPI which was presented in the task. Here, an improved version with larger font, simply better contrast, and people performed much better.
Yeah, it's all about the title, because if you see the left version, you have a big number, but the title is very, very small, so you don't know what is the number. So the right version was the improved one. We just made the title bigger, and it worked. Simple as that. So essentially, what you can get from these well-designed dashboards, what we get from the research actually, so this is not our guess, it's 5 times faster data analysis. It's 3 times faster conclusions, so you can make decisions faster. 5 times lower cognitive burden. This is very, very important. If you don't see the data instantly, you try to find it. You are lost on the screen, and it takes time, and it's a very, very big burden on your mind to analyze the screen and to find the data. This is heavy. Essentially, the decision making is increased. You understand the data, you feel good about it, so you can make a decision. Then increased engagement and adoption. Your users will like to use the solution because they understand it, they don't know how to use it, they know how to decide based on the data they see in this solution. And the most important thing, operational cost is significantly decreased.
Not only, also better design means happier users, and happier users are happier employees. And the more happy employees you have, for example, the more chance you have on employing better people, because good people want to cooperate on good software.
Yeah, and moreover, we are not talking about lost opportunities here, right? Imagine that you have a user and he is analyzing the data, but he doesn't see the correlations between one data and another data. So he cannot see some patterns. So he won't make good decisions, right, based on this report.
And sometimes you have only a couple of hours to improve something. Otherwise, there's a big weekend or something else, and you already lost at some market, for example.
Man, also imagine a situation when you have a report and you need to report something to your superior and you can't understand the data. What is this tension and stress behind it, right?
Okay, so now the next part, redesign in 10 steps, where we give actual tips on how to improve on real life examples, a Power BI report. So, first of all, we recommend creating a style guide for your report, and it is as easy as extracting colors from your company's website if you don't have a professional style guide. Here we are using an example of a Facebook page. We take blue, gray, and black, and that's basically it. You can transfer it easily to your report.
So it looks consistent, right?
Yeah, and this will be the foundation, let's say, for your palette. Of course, in projects, we create more sophisticated style guides, so basic colors, a sort of sentiment colors to display positive number that is exceeding your expectations, or negative one, and neutral one. And you can put them all in your theme, in your palette. And I will show you in a moment how you do it. You customize your current theme by doing the view option, and then here you have customize current theme. And for example, if we do not like this green, we can change it into pink.
Pink is good. And also important that you define the sentiment colors up front. So the negative, the positive, and neutral colors to indicate, for example, I don't know, sales drop or sales increase, right?
Exactly. Sometimes you might not see this customized theme option, especially in older version of Power BI. In case you have this problem, you need to go to options and settings, options, and here under the preview features, element, you will have a checkbox to see to mark if you want to have this option enabled.
Of course, besides the colors, you need to define fonts. For example, if we do the professional style guide, we have a lot of different elements like templates, like icons, images, etc. Right?
And this color is populated all over the tabs. Okay, so now types of visualization. I think we mentioned it a couple of times. Basically, pie charts are good to compare no more than 3 or 4 values. But normally, we are not that good at comparing areas, two-dimensional areas like slices of a pie. It's always easier to compare length instead of an area. So save your pie charts for rather easy visualizations. The ones that contain more elements should be usually done with bar chart.
We know that all of you like pie charts, right? But please, yeah, choose bar chart.
Yeah, strong recommendation for type of data that expands over some time. You usually have line chart, and one important tip: always when it's something that has a zero, you need to have a zero. You need to start from zero. Starting from higher value, like 40% on the bottom, it's a kind of manipulation. You can only do it in very, very certain exceptional situations. So if you're not sure what to do with your data and how to display it, there is a website, extreme presentation typeit.com. There is a PDF with algorithm how to visualize certain data, and we thoroughly recommend you read this because it contains lots of interesting details about different types of visualizations.
Essentially, if you would like to cover this topic, you would need like an additional 2-3 hours webinar just to talk about charts. So better off to read this manual and really compare what kind of data you have and choose a chart which relates to this data.
Exactly. So now a little exercise. We will have 2 pie charts and we will show you how to transform them into
I
a
think
bar
if you
chart.
go back to for a moment to this slide,
Uh-huh.
it's a very interesting thing. Just try to compare the areas on the right on these pie charts. It's really
Mhm.
hard to say which one is bigger, the one on the
Especially
left or the one on the right, right?
third quarter of 2019. How does it compare to 2020?
I would go for the right one, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure.
I think the left one is bigger.
Maybe.
Yeah. So how do we do it? So it's actually quite easy. And as you can see, it's our theme is already working because it's pink. So we insert a visual simply, which was a bar chart, and we pick the date by quarter, and we put sales from 2019 and sales from 2020.
Not fairly easy to do it.
Uh-huh. We will talk about naming those tiles later, but as you can see, by default, Power BI has chosen a very gray and a very small font. We will talk about this later.
And one more thing, when you have two pie charts, you need to have space to put them on the layout, right? You can instead have one chart to compare these two elements.
Yep. We just made this dashboard more understandable and we saved space. Okay. Now, using background. The question is, people after their work, they use very nice websites, they use very nice digital solutions. Why not make business reports as attractive to read as those other places that people visit after work? So we can use this background option to make it easy. So Power BI Power BI puts backgrounds here in the format tab, and there are actually two places where you need to look if you want a background image to appear. So first of all, you create this background image using some Photoshop or other visual design software.
Actually, you can really use PowerPoint.
On PowerPoint, yeah. And here you just need to make sure that background color is 100% transparent, and then wallpaper needs not to be transparent, and this needs to be your image. So here, if we get rid of this, you will see an image upload option and webinar assets, backgrounds. There we go.
Essentially, we want to have the same like consumer-like experience in our enterprise solutions, because they differ a lot, but the users tend to use consumer apps on a day-to-day basis, so they would like to have the same nice experience when using enterprise solutions, which is often not the case. Actually, this is the problem.
So now, on a dashboard, we usually have this problem with lots of numbers. Numbers are very hard to digest by our brain. Brains need to use lots of energy assets to work on the data, on the numbers especially. So if we break this pattern with some nice little picture, it will be less tiresome for the brain, and it will be easier to focus or associate a certain icon with a certain measure, let's say. So we use symbols and icons. Here's a recommended link for you. You can download icons from that, and we will then have a little exercise. So remember this screen from the eye tracking studies with not so clear KPIs. We improved them by increasing font and contrast, but you can also add an icon to this. So sum of discounts, some net revenue, there you go. We added the title, and then we uploaded an icon, and we created a tile.
Well, it's not only the case, but sometimes you can't use an icon, for example, right? But if you do the contrast, the background, it could be enough, of course. But if you use an icon, then you make this navigation very, very easy. So people tend to navigate visually. So when they see an image which is easy to recall, because, for example, a user icon or a dollar icon or a percentage icon, it's fairly easy to remember and to recall next time, then even the title could be a bit smaller, because the icon is the navigational element on the dashboard.
Now to Power BI, and so here's an example of a KPI without a title, without visual distinction. Here we can enhance the style by, again, in the format menu, we enabled the title, and quite often you forget to, for example, take care of the font size or the font color, and Power BI by default makes it very gray, not so easy to read. You do not have influence. If you set it up like this, you do not have influence on the position of the title. So sometimes you want to put a separate background shape. So insert a shape, a square shape. You can upload an image here, and you put a text box as a title. So the original tile is just below this one, and then you have influence. You can make it closer. Remember when I said that people found a certain KPI easier because there was more, let's say, empty space around it. So here you can decide. You can look at it. Is it close enough, or maybe is it far enough? You can do anything you want. With this, it's simpler to set up, but not so, let's say, customizable. Okay. Content hierarchy. So we mentioned that filters usually go on top or to the side. Here is also another tip, how to make your filter appear in a sort of hamburger menu style. Again, a pattern, let's say, known from after work apps, let's say.
Yeah, from mobile essentially, right? Just started on mobile devices. You do use it when you have, because sometimes this is the case when you have a lot of filtering to do, a lot of filters, and you can group them, and then, but you can't show them all on the layout because you don't have enough space. So we have a trick
Yeah. So
to cope with it.
here we have only three filters, so we always put them either on top or to the side. But when you need more space for the filters, and you can upload an icon and implement an action on this icon, which will take you to another view of the same page, which is called a bookmark.
And this is actually very, very cool. I like it.
So when we click this, the bookmark will put a gray area, a bit transparent over the data area, and the filters panel will pop up. And what we have here, we just switched the filter icon to go back icon.
Very cool thing.
And on this icon, another action is implemented. So going back to the bookmark. So there are four bookmarks here. Report is without this filters panel, and filters open. You have hamburger menu open.
Now remember to keep it simple, because users tend to expect certain elements in certain areas of the dashboard. So when you use filters, just keep in mind that they should be visible on the top, on the left side of the report, because users expect to find them in these places. When of course you have too much to show, hide it under the hamburger menu, but title it like filters or something like this to navigate easily for the users.
Yep. And now the next part. Do you remember from this eye tracking study, we also showed the heat map, and there were labels shown on top of each tile, which were kind of essential for the completion of the task. And we mentioned that not all users solved the task because they didn't look, they didn't see what's the chart about. When we increased those labels and gave them more contrast, it turned out that people, find that what they needed, they find it more easily. And again, Power BI by default shows those labels in a gray small font. And simply using again the format tab in Power BI lets you edit the font color and the size. Usually for today's screens, 24 points is quite alright. You can play with bold or darker colors. Basically, the recommendation is remember about the titles.
Yeah, it sounds very, very obvious, but believe me, it's often the case where, for example, there is no title, or the title is by default named with some acronyms or something like this, which are not easy understandable by the user. So remember about the copy and the title, because this is the main element to navigate on the report.
All right, and
Well, yeah, this
we
is
just
it actually.
covered this. And then content hierarchy. We mentioned earlier that let's top level group of users of your reports usually are interested in KPIs. So we need to make those KPIs easy accessible to them. Here there is a KPI section on top and another one to the left. And please notice a little detail here. Here to the left, the KPIs only have the title and the number itself. To the right, they are enhanced by this little line, and this is an actual chart without any surrounding data, just the line. And although it looks like an icon, it already contains some information. It contains the trend information, so you can see the actual current value of the KPI, but also you can see whether the line is falling or moving. It's a small thing, but also brings more information at the first sight.
When you think of an executive who sees the dashboard, he sees the little little line and already knows that the trend is all right. So everything
Yeah.
is okay.
And also make those KPIs stand out. As you can see here, all right, we have the lines, we have the numbers, KPIs are on the bottom. You'd think it's all right, but simply reversing the order in which things are shown and giving this a little bit more contrast changes a lot. It right away draws your attention.
Actually, remember, you are the architect, so you will guide the site of your user whenever you like. So if you put a contrast on an element, or take well KPI for example, or an area on this map, you already see, for example, the color codification that you have 4 areas which are good and 3 areas which are not good. So this is the drawing attention to the areas which are might be interesting to dive deeper.
And then finally, remember when you create your report, check it from time to time for consistency, because sometimes we are tempted to use different color for different visualizations, and as you can see here, there is a consistent set of charts, and here's an, let's say, not consistent, inconsistent one. And go back to your reports very often and see what you've changed, and does it still fit your idea, your original idea? And if not, don't be afraid to put it back to the default, reverse to default. So right
Well,
now it's all consistent.
Well, a general rule of thumb is that you should use as little colors as possible, actually, and as little font variants as possible. Because when you use too much colors, too much different fonts, the interface, the dashboard gets cluttered, and it's hard to navigate and distinguish between different data types.
Exactly. And I think we are getting close to the end of this presentation, of this part. So sometimes when you have different groups of users, you don't need to create several reports for them or make them click into the tabs. You can create what we call a landing page, the one where they begin their journey and they choose which kind of report they want to view.
And this is inside Power BI?
Yep.
This is cool.
So you can create a landing page with, again, actions embedded, which will navigate your report into your user into certain parts of the report. So you choose page navigation, and then you can choose the destination, so for example, pie chart.
Okay, so this is again an experience taken straight from consumer area, right? So you give your user some tool which looks like a web page, right?
Yeah, this needs to be a decision, of course, taken with the users in mind. So users should participate in it, and you should ask them simply, do they want to see a landing page or do they want to get straight to the data? It
Well,
depends on the project.
yeah, this is the same process at the very beginning. So sit down with the user, take a piece of paper and pen, or open a PowerPoint, and then ask them what do they want to see at the very beginning.
And this actually concludes the part with tips and tricks. Now to the questions and answers section.
All
Thank you
right.
very much.
Thanks, guys.